Welcome to Simply Debbie Sue's Southern Whispers. Step into a world where front porches hold secrets, faith carries folks through the hardest days, and the mountains whisper stories only the heart can hear. I invite you into tender moments, gentle humor, and the kind of Southern warmth that feels just like home. Welcome in, friends. I'm so glad you've joined me for another story. So let's get right on into the introduction. Some blessings don't arrive wrapped in ribbons or announced from the pulpit. They slip in quietly, like the first warm breeze after a long winter. At Lantern Tabernacle, folks are used to casseroles, prayer chains, and handwritten cards. But one March, right when the mountains were caught between winter's chill and spring's promise, something unexpected began to appear. Not loud, not flashy, just soft, just warm, and somehow it stitched the whole congregation together in a way only God could orchestrate. This week's story is called Scarves on the Church Pew. The first Sunday of March always felt like a tug of war between seasons, the daffodils pushing up with all their hopeful might while the wind still nipped at ankles, like winter refusing to let go. Folks at Lantern Tabernacle came in with coats buttoned tight, cheeks pink from the cold, and hearts somewhere in between weary and expectant. That morning, Martha Jane, faithful as sunrise and twice as steady, made her usual rounds. She straightened hymnals, set out bulletins, and whispered a prayer over each pew like she always did. That's when she saw it, a soft blue scarf, hand knitted, folded with such care it almost felt reverent. No tag, no note, just warmth waiting patiently. She held it up to the light, admiring the even stitches. Somebody's been busy with their needles, she murmured, placing it gently on the lost and found shelf beside a stack of forgotten reading glasses and a lone mitten. The next Sunday brought us cranberry red scarf, cable knit, delicate, beautiful. It lay across the pew where young Caleb Thomas usually perched beside his mamma. Caleb wrapped it around his neck and grinned so wide his dimples nearly touched his ears. Feels like a hug, he said, and nobody had the heart to take it from him. Then came more. Soft gray, buttercream yellow, forest green, a cheerful stripe, a quiet heathered brown, each one different, each one perfectly made, and always placed on a pew. Never the same one twice. Whispers began to float through the sanctuary like dust motes in morning light. Maybe it's a secret ministry. Maybe it's someone practicing for a craft fair. Maybe it's the Holy Spirit with the crochet hook. But no one claimed them, and no one wanted them to stop. By the third Sunday in March, nearly every pew had a scarf draped across it. The sanctuary looked like a quilt of kindness, color and comfort woven into every row. Outside, the wind still carried winter's bite, but inside, warmth settled over the congregation like a quiet revival. That morning, Pastor Dan paused mid sermon, emotion thick in his voice. I don't know who's been leaving these scarves, he said, but I do know this. They've reminded us that love doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's hand stitched, and sometimes it shows up right when you need it most. After the service, little Gracie May tugged on her mama's coat, eyes wide with a seriousness only a 7-year-old can muster. Mama, she whispered, I saw Miss Evelyn knitting in the back pew last week. Miss Evelyn, the widow who lost her Harold last spring, the one who slipped in and out of church like a shadow, the one whose hands were always busy, though her voice rarely was. The next Sunday, Pastor Dan approached her gently, like someone approaching a bird that might fly away. Miss Evelyn, he said softly, were you the one blessing us with these scarves? Her needles stilled. She looked up, eyes misty but steady. I didn't mean for anyone to know. She said, I just needed something to do with my hands, and I thought maybe someone else needed a little warmth. She swallowed hard. Knitting helped me feel close to Harold. He used to say it was my superpower. Pastor Dan smiled, eyes shining. Well, it's been God's grace in yarn form. Word spread as things do in small towns, but instead of embarrassment, Miss Evelyn found herself surrounded by gentle gratitude. Folks brought her yarn, soft skeins in blues and greens, cheerful variegated bundles, even a few fancy alpaca blends from someone who wanted to remain anonymous. And she kept knitting. Soon others joined her: Martha Jane, Mrs. Thomas, even old Mr. Harlan, who never knitted a day in his life, but said he wanted to learn something useful before the Lord calls me home. The fellowship hall soon held a basket labeled Scarves of Comfort. Take one, leave one, share one. And people did. One Sunday, a young woman named Tasha, new to town, shoulders hunched like someone carrying an invisible weight, found a lavender scarf on her pew. She held it through the whole service, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Afterward, she told Martha Jane, "I haven't felt seen in months. That scarf, it felt like someone knew I needed it to be held." Another week, Mr. Harlan tucked a forest green scarf into his coat and whispered, "My wife used to knit. I'd forgotten how good it feels to be remembered." A teenager wrapped a bright yellow one around her friend who'd had a hard week. A new mama draped one over her baby's car seat. A man recovering from surgery said the soft gray one kept him warm during long nights. And just like that, Lantern Tabernacle became a little warmer, not just from scarves, but from the quiet love that stitched hearts back together, one row, one loop, one act of grace at a time. So the reflection of this week's story is: March is a month of in between, winter not quite gone, spring not quite here. And sometimes our hearts feel the same way. But God, in His tender way, gives us threads of purpose even in the in between seasons. And scars weren't just wool and pattern, they were prayers. They were present. They were proof the healing can be shared, one stitch at a time. May we never underestimate the quiet gifts. May we offer warmth without needing credit. And may we remember that even in our own seasons of grief or waiting, God can use our hands to comfort others. And in doing so, knit us back together too. I hope you enjoyed that story this week. Come back next week for another one. May these stories that I have written wrap around you like a well loved quilt. May they remind you that God is near, hope is steady, and joy often comes softly like a whisper on a southern breeze.